Welcome back to CryptosRUs. I am George. We're all George. So, WTF? What the F happened to Bitcoin and crypto today? This morning, we're coming up to 1 trillion in market cap, and then boom. All of a sudden, we get a steep sell-off. So, what happened exactly? Well, let's take a look at what developed during the day that may have caused this. And let's discuss what we should do about it. All right, let's get started. Smash on the like, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that notification bell to get notified of all my streams. Follow me on social media. Check out CryptosRUs.com and make sure you check out my other channels as well. Good evening, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Whew. Out of nowhere, we see this massive red, massive sell-off, right? Where did this come from? This morning, Bitcoin was hovering around 20,000. I was talking about the merge, right? Everyone's happy about the merge with Ethereum and Ethereum Classic. A lot of other alts were going up. We were nearing 1 trillion in market cap, and boom, now we are back down to about 943, down 6% overall. And it's just, we lost all that momentum. Ethereum down about 8%. You got BNB down. You got XRP down. Look at Cardano down. It was at 9%. Now it's 8%. You got Polygon, Polkadot, Avalanche. I mean, double digit. Ethereum Classic was up above $40. Now down 15%. Uniswap. I mean, man, today sucked. It really, really did suck. Right? So what happened? Well, unfortunately, it looks like a lot of macro stuff happened. A lot of bad macro stuff that kind of compounded into something that we see right now, right? So at the end of this morning's stream, this headline actually came out. And at the time, I'm like, this is pretty bad. But, the markets didn't really, I think, have time to digest this, but Russia have officially declared they're cutting off natural gas to Europe indefinitely, right? So I read this, I caught it at the end of the stream this morning, but this is horrible. This is what people were afraid of, that, the dependence on natural gas from Russia, right? That's going to lead to bad things. And due to all the sanctions and what's going on with the war, right? A lot of fear that Russia will just cut things off. And that's exactly what they did. So, heading into winter, what is Germany and others that are so dependent on this, right? What are they going to do? So, in fact, Germany is now keeping 2 nuclear power plants available as a backup. They're starting to burn coal. So they are in desperate need to try to figure out what to do about this winter if they can't get any more natural gas. And it's not just them, right? Besides Germany, which is, I think, the biggest importer of natural gas, but you have Italy and other countries that are very dependent. So I think this is starting to, a lot of traders are starting to come to realization, well, Europe may be suffering quite a lot coming up in the next few months, right? So this can't be good. Europe, it makes a huge percentage of the global trade, right? So I think this had a lot to do with what we saw today. And this had more repercussions on the DXY, on the bonds. I'll get to that in a little bit. So I think this is what really scared a lot of people and is still going to be a continuing problem going forward. Now, because Russia is cutting off natural gas, right? Who are they going to sell it to instead? Well, it looks like they want to sell it to China. And on top of that, not only sell it to China, but they're only going to accept rubles and the Chinese yuan. So they're going to try to get off the USD, right? So Russia is doing their thing right now, right? Obviously, they don't want to lose that income as well. So they're going to try to sell it to China. And not only that, Russia is really desperate to get off the USD standard, right? So there's talks about them coming out with their own stable coin as well, or maybe their own CBDC that could be widely used between nations that are friendly with Russia, right? So this is happening. This is happening. I think this is the biggest reason why we saw a major sell-off. It spooked a lot of people, spooked a lot of investors, thinking that, well, maybe in the U.S., we don't have such problems. But if Europe starts to have major problems, and you know what, maybe these countries have to start spinning up the money printer once again to start printing more or giving more relief funds or giving more, just cutting checks to make sure that people are not suffering, right? Maybe they have to spin up the money printers and inflation will become worse. And on top of that, there may be economic, destruction. Hopefully not, it doesn't come to that. But, there's a lot of rumors swirling, right? And because of that, the DXY continues to skyrocket. The DXY just does not want to come down because there's a lot of fear about Europe, about the euro, and about the British pound, right? So this is why the DXY continues to go up. And not only that, the U.S. bonds, the Treasury, is going up as well, right? So you got a lot of moving pieces right now. A lot of moving pieces. And unfortunately, I think that is what scared the markets today. But it's not only this. There's something else that's going on right now that may be having effect, but I didn't want to cover this, and I'll cover this more as it develops. But the standstill between Russia and Europe and this natural gas pipeline that is shut off indefinitely, it's going to bring on some issues, right? Unless, I don't even know what the solution is. Will this force Europe to kind of try to force Ukraine to end the war, or will it force Europe to remove some of the sanctions that they have placed, or will this force them to do something else more drastic? I don't know at this point. I don't know. So that's what's happening right now on a global macro scale. But as for crypto, a couple things. Number one, Three Arrows Capital. Yes, we all love Three Arrows Capital. They're the gift that keeps on giving. No, I'm just kidding. We hate Three Arrows Capital. But, they've been ordered to liquidate and give back whatever they have, their assets back to creditors, right? So it turns out, today they removed quite a lot. They removed 33 million in STETH. They removed about 200 Bitcoins, 4 million in USDT, and 4 million in wrapped Ether, right? They owe their creditors 2.4 billion, and this is nowhere close to that. But if you add all that up, that's still a significant amount, right? So we're talking about around $50 million. I don't know if this had something to do with it on top of everything else. They decided that they needed to liquidate, maybe something to do with that. So there's this, right? Three Arrows Capital seems to be the gift that keeps on giving. And, hopefully this comes to a resolution soon because there are still projects coming out that state that they have been affected. In fact, someone asked me about this mining pool, this Bitcoin mining pool called Poolin, that have liquidity issues right now, and they stopped withdrawals. And guess why? Because they had a ton of exposure to Three Arrows Capital. That just came out recently too, right? So I don't know if they gave Three Arrows Capital a ton of Bitcoin, so now they don't have enough, right? So, we're still, unfortunately, seeing the repercussions of the greediness and the leverage from Three Arrows Capital, right? So, unfortunately, that also happened today. So, on top of everything, right? On top of all the fear and FUD and out there, right? I think these are two reasons why things came down. And obviously, whenever you have a massive drop, guess what? You have massive liquidations. So take a look. That's a huge liquidation right there. About 175 million. Then you had another 30 million after that, another 30 million after that, right? So you're talking about, and then 15 million beforehand. So you're talking about like 250 million in total that was liquidated within just a few hours. So on top of everything else, this obviously didn't help the liquidations, right? So, yeah, so that kind of explains what happened today, okay? So, unfortunately, we did go lower. So, with all that said, Dan asked the super chat, I wouldn't worry too much about big BTC falling. That's good. But do you think ETH will be regulated after merge and eventually make Bitcoin obsolete? No, because I don't think the two compete. They don't. One is a store value. One is a dApp marketplace / ecosystem, right? So the two does not compete at all. I don't think ETH will be a store value. People may treat it as it, but it's not a store value like Bitcoin. So, all right. So, yeah. So despite all that, I know a lot of you guys are not panicking. That's good, right? A lot of people argue, well, we needed one more shakeout. There are some technical indicators or technical analysis that show that, well, Bitcoin needed to drop. It may need to hit 17K again, and some are calling even lower. It may hit 15K or it may hit 12K before we could go up again, right? So for some, they're thinking, well, this is natural, right? But I can't help but think that, what's going on a macro scale, right? And all these external factors, I think they are the real reasons why we're seeing this and we're causing, a lot of people to become real fearful and sell off, right? But who knows? Maybe it had something to do with that, right? And if so, if we hit these targets, well, then that means Bitcoin could recover, right? So there are some people that are saying, well, this is perfectly natural, George. Well, that's good. As long as you guys don't freak out, right? And as for the fundamentals, you know that just because Bitcoin fell down 1,000 points today, all right, does not mean the end of the world. Obviously, the fundamentals of Bitcoin is still the same as it was this morning. Nothing fundamentally has changed, right? And I show you guys a lot of these kind of metrics, on-chain metrics, a lot of indicators and models, right? But the number of holders continue to grow, the number of addresses continue to grow, the number of unspent Bitcoin continues to grow and reach the all-time high, right? So the fundamentals of Bitcoin did not change, and the miners not going away. Just this morning, I cover about Hut 8. They added another 300 plus Bitcoin to their stockpile. Now they have over 3,000. A lot of these miners, they are not giving up. They continue to mine, continue to hodl because they know we will get through this, right? So stay strong, my friends. I know most of you guys are, but for those of you guys that are kind of losing faith, right? Know that we will get through this. There's a lot of macro stuff. There may be some whale games, whale manipulation, right? But we will get through it. We will get through it. All right. What else is going on? I mean, nothing much really. There's some crypto news. I saw this for those of you guys that are XRP Army. Ripple is confirming that they are working as CBDCs. Okay. I don't know with who, right? Or whether or not this is a good thing, but Ripple is working on other things besides just, cross-border payments. So yeah, this is coming. This is coming. As for, I've been talking a lot about Ethereum recently. Obviously, this whole merge that's coming up. Today was the very first day of the pre-merge, and then there's a merge, right? I don't have to talk more about Ethereum, but others like layer 2s like Polygon continue to do well. The merge is not going to solve scalability issues, so Polygon's NFT sales are still skyrocketing, and not only that, they just reached 2 billion total transactions. So that's fantastic. So other projects, that somewhat compete with Ethereum, they're still doing just fine, especially the ones that are EVM compatible, right? So that's good. But overall, something else I think it's very positive that I've been talking about a lot, and that is even with today's drop, Bitcoin dominance did not go up, okay? That kind of tells you something. It tells me two things. Number one, the bag holders of altcoins are not going away, okay? This time around, the holders, the ones that are holding ETH and BNB and Solana and Cardano, right? They continue to stay strong and they continue to DCA and HODL. So that's what's showing, number one. So I think that's a fantastic thing. Number two is the fact that Bitcoin is going down and Bitcoin dominance is not going up kind of shows me that there are some other players that is kind of trying to suppress Bitcoin in a way, and maybe not purposefully, but maybe it's just due to the fact that, you know, some of these guys may be institutions or big whales, right? They're getting scared, they're dumping, but what they're dumping is Bitcoin and not anything else, which is why you're not seeing this resurgence of Bitcoin dominance go up because everything else is panic selling, right? No, it's actually quite the opposite right now. There's actually more Bitcoin selling than altcoin selling, which is why Bitcoin dominance is actually going down while ETH and other altcoin dominance is going up. So overall, I think we're seeing a little bit of that as well. But the main thing about Bitcoin dominance being low and not going up is the fact that I do think a lot of holders are just, they know better. They know it's not time to be giving up. They know this is the time to be stocking up and DCAing rather than panic selling, right? So I think that's pretty good overall. All right, guys, let's do some Q&A. David, I do not hold a ton of XRP. But I do hold the greatest educational video ever made about XRP and Ripple. All right, scrolling up, let's see. Early place, nice little DCA point if you ask me. I don't disagree with that. Let's see here. Dan, what other fundamentals are there besides it being store value? I could say gold is store value, but in terms of tech, transaction speed, as a form of money, what makes BTC special? Why not use gold for store value? Well, gold could be confiscated very easily. It's very difficult to transfer gold. It's very hard to use gold, right? It's hard to track whether or not the gold bar that you're holding is even authentic. So there's a lot of downsides to holding real gold, where for Bitcoin, you don't have those issues. Bitcoin is also on the blockchain, and you could also build layer 2s on top of it, like the Lightning Network, which makes it pretty fast, pretty feeless, and you could actually spend it for everyday transactions. So there's a lot of greatness to Bitcoin, and not only that, gold does not have a set supply where Bitcoin does. You have $12 trillion of gold found in Uganda out of the blue. And there's gold in asteroids and space, and who knows? You know, maybe one falls to the earth. Hopefully it doesn't kill the earth, but you get a lot more gold instantly. You can't generate more BTC. So, Dan, there's a big difference between Bitcoin and gold. C. Anderson, great time to buy if you can. Yes. Jesse, what about a Binance stablecoin thing? What about it? Nothing. Yeah, I think they misspelled it. It's CBDC, central bank digital currency, not CDBC. So I think it's just misspelled, and I said that wrong. I didn't catch it until you actually asked about it. Let's see. Jim Dude says gold gives you ED. All right. I laughed a little bit too hard on that. Yes, you can just create another blockchain. Ha ha ha. They already done it. If you're if you're saying that in response to how you can't create more Bitcoin, you could fork it. Doesn't mean that it's Bitcoin. So no, that's not a valid argument. We have Bitcoin Cash. We have Bitcoin SV. Is it Bitcoin? No. Do the miners recognize Bitcoin Cash as Bitcoin? No. So just because you could fork something does not make it the same thing. That's what the naysayers would want you to believe, saying, "Oh, Bitcoin's not scarce. You could just fork off another chain." It's another chain. It becomes an altcoin. It's not Bitcoin. ETH dominance down, Bitcoin dominance up. Brian, that's not true. That's not true at all. Bitcoin dominance was at the same point this morning, 38.2%. In fact, Bitcoin dominance continues to go down. And I know for Bitcoin maxis, they might not like that, but overall, I think it's a great thing. It shows that altcoin holders, they're not leaving, and they're not panicking and selling their bags for Bitcoin, right? Like all previous bear markets, all previous corrections, all previous, down markets, right? You see Bitcoin dominance go sky high. This is the first time in Bitcoin's history. Go back and look at the dominance chart. First time in Bitcoin's history where Bitcoin dominance is low and still heading lower despite the market conditions. We're not in altcoin season. We're not in FOMO season. And traditionally before, those were the only times Bitcoin dominance dropped, right? So it does show that the market is definitely maturing and the market is big. What is the lowest you see Dogecoin going? It could go a lot lower than this, for sure. I mean, just a few years ago, Dogecoin had a few more decimal points. So can it go lower? Yeah. Is it likely to drop a few decimal points? Probably not. But can it go lower? Yeah, it certainly can. Jose says, approves company want L1s for their products and services, crypto assets will prove their purpose. I mean, right now, the ecosystem, this is why I like L1 so much, because they're the foundation. They're the operating system, right? And everything else, all the dApps that we see right on top of them. So it's really like, you got to think of Ethereum almost like Microsoft Windows or Mac OS or iOS, It's almost like that. That's why they're so exciting, because they're the base layer and there's so much that could be done on top of it that we don't even know about. We know what exists now, but in the future, there could be so much more right on top of them. So that is why it's so exciting. Westbit, no reason to sell. These are some great discounts for great projects. I 100% agree. Today's not Wednesday, right? Tomorrow's Wednesday. That'll be a pretty good DCA day. I mean, right now it's pretty good DCA day, but tomorrow, if it stays low, be a great DCA day. What do you think about Doge Chain? It sounds good in theory, but who knows if it's going to be embraced, right? The Dogecoin founders, or at least the main one, Billy Marcus, does not want to endorse it. So I don't know. I don't know if it's officially going to be recognized or even used. But if it turns out to be legit, and now you have DeFi that you can participate in with your Doge, that's a huge thing. That's a huge thing. Today is Taco Tuesday. Oh, I can't disagree with that. DeFi Kingdoms, their latest is they're moving to Clayton, right? So that's just the latest. I don't know when that's going to happen, but they're going to have their two chains, two There are two lands, one on DeFi Kingdoms chain, which is on top of Avalanche. The other one will be in Clayton. But they are going to redo their whole token economy, so it's a little bit confusing. They're going to have a new token that's coming out too. I don't know if that's a good idea to introduce another token, but yeah, there's a few things they're working on. I feel like people fear that CryptosRUs 2.0, except open source L1s allow us to see inside a box. The tech is amazing. Can't wait. No, I don't think people fear Theranos 2.0 at all. it's kind of different. Like this day and age, you can't really call crypto a scam anymore. You can't call Bitcoin a scam. In 2017, 2018, you could. 2019, you could too. At our deepest like point, the bottom of the well, so to speak, right? And that's because there was really nothing other than Bitcoin. You had everything else, but there was no utility. There was basically no DeFi. There was no liquidity pools. There was no value locked into any of the chains, right? A lot of them didn't have smart contracts yet. And we had NFTs, but no one cared. There was no volume on them, right? So these things have changed. Very little bridges existed. Now we have tons of bridges, a lot of interoperability. So things have evolved quite a lot within the last few years. But despite all that, of course, we still have our hiccups, right? We still have a little bit too much leverage. We still have projects that over leverage through risk management out the window, right? Obviously, we had some bad apples weeded out. It is still early, but yeah, it's definitely different space versus previous years. Dan, what do you think the merge of ETH will have on the overall market? Will it boost prices? I don't know about boosting the price overall for the entire market, but I think eventually it's going to cause a big effect on Ethereum. Maybe not right away, but I talked about this morning, the fact that Ethereum basically becomes deflationary afterwards is a big deal, right? The energy usage and stuff like that, obviously it goes down. I don't think a whole lot of people care that, they're moving to proof of stake and now it's more energy efficient. People care about whether or not it's going to go up. And the fact that ETH issuance goes down by 90% is a big deal. So I think over time, that's definitely going to help them. But, of course, they still need to figure out how to scale. Jack, I just answered about DeFi Kingdom, so let's skip on that. Immutable X, they're an L1 that's interesting. They definitely have a few projects on board. They're getting involved with DeFi and so forth, right? But they're competing in a very crowded space of L2s. So I know Immutable X also is involved with like the GameStop NFT marketplace. That hyped them up a little bit. I never understood that. But, I think overall they're promising. They help Ethereum scale, but it's very crowded space. There's a ton of L2s out there. Well, Helium, wait. Was someone asking about Helium? Here's the thing. Helium, I think they have promise. They were doing great things. They have a lot of miners out there. But I think what they did, first of all, deciding to switch to Solana was not very popular. And then also I heard they made a decision without consulting with anyone, which was also not very popular. So and then plus on top of that, with the market weakness, that's probably why we're seeing what we're seeing with Helium. Solana is just not very popular chain right now. So that is why a lot of projects are moving to, say, Polygon instead, or Immutable X or Optimism, one of the other L2s rather than Solana. So, and then the fact that their governance really didn't really allow people to have a voice, I guess, really pissed people off. Do you think regulation by government will force delisting of Bitcoin by exchanges? No. Bitcoin is too big to be killed. And we have a lot of friends in Congress that are bag holders as well. So, no, I don't think that's going to happen. Do I still believe in Cadena? Yes. And yes, they have not been tested in a bear market, but I still think the technology is solid. The team is solid. So the fundamentals of Cadena is solid. CADEX, which is their biggest partner, releasing a lot of wallet support. That's good, right? But they just need more. They need more wallet support. They need more DEXs. They need more dApps. They need more usage. So they have a shot. Their technology is very solid. They proof of stake with a chain web. They can scale infinitely with the same consensus and security as Bitcoin, but without any constraints of speed or congestion or anything like that. So their technology is fantastic. The team is very solid. It's just a matter of drawing more usage to the network. Do you think inflation is necessary for a productive economy, or can we do it with zero inflation? I don't know. I'm not the most, educational person when it comes to like economy and everything that's going on. I guess there's a lot of the markets and the central bank and how they control, and the Treasury and how they all control the flow of money and what money is and what fiat is and all that stuff. It's very, very complicated, convoluted. And some will say, well, it's just all idiotic. So you would figure that we should be able to run an economy with no inflation, but there's probably something to that won't work, right? You need something. You need, especially if you're in an economy where you are in a deficit and you can't pay off your bills. So what do? Well, you print more money, right? And that's why we have inflation. And at least in the U.S., and I think most countries, we're all in deficits, right? Trillions upon trillions upon trillions, and trillions that we can never pay off, right? So what do? How do you pay the government workers? How do you pay congressmen or congresspeople? How do you pay the president when we have no money? You have to print more, right? And if you print more, that causes inflation. So there's probably something to it, why we definitely need to have inflation. But in reality, in theory, we shouldn't. Yeah, I don't know. Ask Powell that question. Maybe Powell can answer it. Or Janet Yellen can answer that. How high do you think Bitcoin could go in the future? I mean, honestly, the sky's the limit for Bitcoin. Breaking 100,000 would be absolutely huge, and I do believe that will happen for sure. And then, after 100,000, is 200,000 really unreasonable, right? Bitcoin needs to hit 600,000+ to equal the market cap of gold. So just think about that. That's a long way to go. 600,000+ to reach the market cap of gold. So I would say it could at least equal the value of gold. Maybe not that soon, but eventually. Dan, man, you're asking a lot of questions, man. This is the Dan Q&A show. Inflation is to be in proportion with productivity to avoid political problems. Inflation is inevitable, even without central bank. Look at Rome, Ottomans. They always minted coins, but they always, all those empires also all collapsed, right? Which is what a lot of economists think about the U.S. economy, that eventually it will collapse as well. And hopefully we never see that happen, because then we have much bigger problems. But, I think inflation is interesting. When it's 2 to 3%, not really noticeable, right? But when it's 10%, And now some countries are higher than that, heading to 20%. Some countries that suffer hyperinflation, that's like 100% year to year. That's where it's a conundrum. Like you literally cannot hold cash. You hold cash and it decreases by 100% next year. So, I mean, 50%. I mean, like literally that is, what do you do, right? So yeah, inflation, I think, when it's low, no one really cares. Hopefully you get a raise that's equal to inflation, right, every year, so it kind of balances out. But now we're in a situation where raises are, well, I say the overall wages are higher than before, but I don't hear too much about people getting raises and stuff, mostly because just higher wages. But yeah, it's an interesting thing. It's an interesting thing. Let's see here. Is there a first leg down to 10K? I certainly hope not. Edwin's, yeah, a lot of questions. Some of them are pretty good though. Makes you think. Makes you really think. Do you really need an economy with inflation? Year-to-year inflation. What is a reasonable explanation or expectations from the ETH merge? Well, I think we've already seen it. ETH has been going up. I thought it would be more, but we still have time. Right now, definitely the macro environment is holding a lot of things down. But Ethereum going into the future, whether or not it sells off after the merge, if it becomes buy the news, sell the rumor kind of event, right? It could happen. But I think it's a big deal that the ETH issuance drops by 90%. And everyone that's staked within cannot withdraw until the next upgrade, which is 6 to 12 months. So that's also big. Everyone that's staked into the Beacon chain right now and all the new rewards from staking cannot be withdrawn for 6 to 12 months. So it's a big deal. Thoughts on Flow? Flow has been gaining a lot of traction recently, Igor. So I like Flow. I've always liked Flow. It was just very hard to buy in the U.S. Now you could buy on Binance.US. But yeah, Flow has made some big partnerships. Ticketmaster is huge, absolutely huge. Also with Meta and Instagram, that's big too. And they still have NBA Top Shots, and they're getting into football as well. So they're doing good things. Viper Man Matt. There's no doubt. That's why I've said I agree with you. I want Ripple to win the case against SEC. Brad Garlinghouse has said they're going to spend $100 million by the time it's done. That's a lot. Most projects don't have that much to spend. But if they win that lawsuit, it would be fantastic for the entire crypto space. It's going to put Gary Gensler in his place, and we would all love to see that, right? That's why I'm rooting for Ripple on that case, right? There's no doubt about it. It's absolutely huge. Now, outside of that, I'll just be nice and say I'm neutral. George, if you get an ace knee brace that Velcros on the top and bottom, Max, I've tried all those nonsense knee braces. They all slip off and fall off. None of them are good. And if I tie it so tight that it doesn't fall off, it cuts off the circulation. It's no knee brace works for me. Can we leave our ETH and wallets at trust during the merge? Most likely. The trust wallet will be upgraded. I'll do some more research on it, but I'm 99% sure it'll be fine because all the wallet makers, all the major wallet makers will upgrade and support the new chain. So, but I'll do more research. If I find out it's no, I'll let you guys know, but most likely it's yes. Just cut off your leg, George. No. What ledgers do you use? Which ones are safe from tampering? I have always used the S, but now there's the S Plus. So I think the S Plus is really good. There's the X, which has Bluetooth capability, but you could argue that by having Bluetooth makes it not so secure because it's no longer cold wallet. You could turn off the Bluetooth, yes, but still, what if you accidentally leave it on, right? But even then, it's low chance of being hacked. But I like the S and S Plus. And I deal with mobile wallets all this time. I think like Trust Wallet is fantastic, really easy to use. I use Arculus also. I think it's just a mobile wallet with another layer of security. There's a lot of options out there. All right, Bitcoin, 18.5. Man, there are some dumpers right now. There are definitely some bad actors that are trying to dump Bitcoin as much as they can. Don't know who it is. The macro environment, I talked about it. ITrustCapital talked about it. Liquidations on top of that, right? There's definitely a lot of selling going on right now. But you know what? For the rest of us that's in the game, for us holders, just another DCA opportunity. Max P, thank you for that. Although that's not saying much. Let's see. Dan, I get the feeling that first of all, you like ETH a lot more than Bitcoin. And second of all, like you somehow think if Bitcoin falls to 5K, ETH is not going to be affected. I think you're dreaming about that, buddy. If Bitcoin falls to 5K, ETH will fall probably below 100. So don't wish for that to happen, man. Don't wish for that to happen at all. Crash to 10,000, yes or no? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no. So, I mean, obviously the last low that we had, the temporary low, was about 17.7. So, obviously we're still far off from that. But after that, we had a stint right here, right around 18.5, right? So, we have hit that. So, we'll see if we can bounce off. Obviously, a lot of the short-term indicators are all oversold. 4 hours RSI is touching upon 25, 24 oversold. 1 hour is around 22 oversold. 15 minutes touching around 23 oversold, right? So a lot of the short-term indicators indicate that we should have a good bounce, but there is definitely someone behind the scenes selling, like right here, major sell, over here, major sell, over here, major sell. Just don't know who it is. It dipped because I DCA'd today. Well, maybe you're the culprit. Patcoin to 10, I think not. King Beaver EO. Sorry, butchered that name. I don't know how you do it, George. Every day, nonstop. That's what I do. You gotta have the discipline to keep going. And that's what I do. Twice a day, almost every day. Let's see here. 12.5K is the absolute bottom of this cycle if it keeps going down. Well, many would disagree with you. Many would say, well, no. It go to 12 or 10 or 0. If you ask Peter Schiff, he'll say the absolute bottom is 0. So don't count on that. Thoughts on Shake and Bake? I love that movie, Talladega Nights. Awesome movie. Will ADA ever cross $10? Yeah, when Bitcoin is above $100,000, it has a chance then, but it's going to take a while. Is there an exchange that still sells XRP? If you're talking about in the U.S., I think Uphold is the only one in the U.S. that still sells it. But if you're outside of U.S., almost every other exchange, KuCoin, Binance, FTX, they all sell it. Time to buy AMP token. AMP definitely lost a lot of momentum when Binance.us delisted them due to security concerns because SEC declared they were a security. So they lost a lot of momentum because of that. E to 2K within a week. Told you first. Okay, I'll hold you to that, Rick. Could another interest rate hike push Bitcoin down further, or do you think the markets won't care? Are there any other coins that can be perceived as store value besides Bitcoin? No. Some would argue maybe like Litecoin could be a store value, but no, it's not. And another rate hike, it really depends. I cover rate hike all the time. We're going to have one later this month. There's a lot of stuff happening this month, by the way. A lot. Merge, Cardano, Vassal hard fork. We got the FOMC meeting. There's what is it? Mt. Gox. The last day to put your claim in is also this month. There's a lot of stuff happening this month, but it really depends on how hawkish Powell is. If he becomes really, really hawkish, then it could drive markets down. But if he's in line with expectations, which at this point I think is a 75 basis point hike, right? If it's in line with that, I think the markets are cool. But if he comes out and says 100 basis points, right, that would be really bad. Or he comes out and says, 75 basis points, but we still don't see inflation go down. We're still going to be very hawkish, which means in November, December, there could be 2 more 75 basis point hikes, which is another 1.5%. That would be pretty hawkish and bad for the markets too. Can we expect your teleporter channel in 100 years? First of all, we need to have chips in our heads so that we could transport our consciousness into the metaverse. Then we could live forever. Then in 100 years, teleporters would be invented. Then you could use it. But if you're already in a metaverse, you don't really need a teleporter. Yeah, I went on a little rant last night, but it's coming. The thing is, a lot of you guys, I don't know if you watched, Black Mirror on Netflix. Probably one of the best shows ever, except with a few exceptions. Like a few episodes are really weird. But what's worse than death is having your consciousness stored in a computer and basically being controlled from the outside and you can't die. That would be much worse than death. And that happened in one of the episodes. Like, imagine if you got put into an empty box where there was nothing and time was infinite, and you're just sitting there with nothing to do for the remainder of your life. That would be hell. That would be worse than hell, right? So it's one of those things we probably shouldn't have. We shouldn't have the ability to have our consciousness stored in a computer because it could lead to some really, really bad things if you think about it. It sounds horrible. It is horrible. It's absolutely horrible if you think about it. If Fed wants to fight inflation, why not turn off the money printer? It's already too late, Dan. They already printed $4 trillion. $4 trillion. And they have more incentives and tax breaks and stuff that add up to more, like $8 trillion. And they're giving, money away. The student loan forgiveness, that's hundreds of billions of dollars. I mean, these are all stuff, when they say it's forgiven, is it really forgiven? No. They print money and they give it to where it's owed, right? So, yeah, it's a tough one for them. It's a tough one. Hi from Texas. Hi. Black Mirror, good. It's very good. If you like sci-fi freaky stuff, go watch it. Why the hell does everything follow Bitcoin? Well, Bitcoin still had the most trading pairs, the most volume, still the most trust in this space, right? So generally speaking, yeah, everything follows Bitcoin. I think the trading pairs is a big thing. And, obviously when you trade, a lot of pairs are pegged to Bitcoin. So when Bitcoin goes down, kind of brings everything else down too. Now it's a little bit less than that because you have a lot of trading pairs that's just stable coin pairs, which is better. But still, people gravitate to Bitcoin when traditionally when things are weak, things, move along with people are panic dumping Bitcoin. They panic dump everything else. So it's another reason why. Some of these hidden comments are quite funny. I'm reading them. Don't act like educational loan forgiveness is worse than business loans forgiveness during COVID. It's all bad. I didn't act like it was better, but any kind of forgiveness is bad because, I don't know. If you're really, really desperate, it could be a good thing. But for everyone else that paid their tax dollars and ones that paid off their loans, they worked hard to do it, not really fair, right? But all of these things, these forgivenesses, lead to inflation. Part of the reason why we are in the situation we are in now. I never got into Fringe. I always wanted to watch Fringe, never got into it. But I'll tell you guys, Orville just keeps getting better and better and better. Season 3 is so goddamn good. You guys like sci-fi shows, you really need to watch Orville. GRT long term, the graph. I mean they're kind of like Chainlink in a way. They provide API access for projects. It's a great utility, just not a very sexy project and not one that a lot of people care about. So, yeah. How come ETH is holding better in BTC? Right now, there's a lot of excitement about the ETH merge. That's for sure. That's definitely helping. And, ETH has a lot going on in its ecosystem. What do you think about the new Predator movie, Prey? I actually thought it was decent. It was interesting. I liked the evolution, Overall, I think it's kind of the same premise, right? It's always humans. Doesn't matter what kind of weapons they have. It's always vastly outdated versus the Predator, but it's always about figuring out what the Predator's weakness is, and there's always one that they always figure out, and that eventually leads to their downfall. But overall, I thought it was enjoyable. The Fed is looking to make a stable coin. Could they consider it being backed by Bitcoin, similar to Terra? No, they will not back it by Bitcoin. If they do, then basically they might as well say we're getting off the USD standard. We're getting rid of USD. The U.S. government will never do that, ever. If they did, That means that Bitcoin is ready to world currency, the reserve currency, and the USD is basically dead. So I don't think that's going to happen. They go back and buy the USD. So, yes. Raul points to waiting for bond yields to drop. Then bull run happens. I don't know. I was doing some research on bond yields, right? Bond yields, it's interesting. It can go both ways. Bond yields going up means that demand for them is down, right? Right now, why is it down? Well, because everyone is FOMOing into the US dollar. DXY is up, right? So people are actually, it seems like people don't want to hold these bonds, which is why the rates are going up. But here's the thing. If bond rates are up, it also affects mortgage rates. That means mortgage rates are going to go up, which means that the economy is slowing down, right? People will not be able to afford as many houses or bigger houses or any houses at all. So, I was kind of studying yields. It's, it goes both ways. You figure with yields going up, meaning that the US dollar or these bonds, right, are not enticing enough. That's why they have to raise rates. So where's the money going to? It should go into stocks, right? It should go into crypto and equities and stocks, but it's not right now. Where is it going to? It's going to the dollar. So that's the weird thing about this right now, right? So if yields start coming down, that doesn't necessarily mean that a bull run's going to happen, because that means there's more interest in the bonds themselves. That's why the rates are going down. Right? So if people are buying bonds, does that mean they're going to buy crypto? I don't think so. Not necessarily. I think right now, what's the problem is the DXY is so high. The DXY and the US dollar is too damn strong right now because the other currencies around the world are worse. They're getting debased right in front of our eyes, so much so that it's propping up the DXY. I think that's what's hurting, the market right now. It's weird. It's just a weird time. Dahlia, George, do we need to do anything special with our cold storage? No. If big Q, yes. If there's something that's major, but almost every single wallet maker, like Ledger, Trezor, I don't know what else, SafePal, Arculus, Trust Wallet. Every major wallet is preparing for this. They will be upgrading. There's almost zero chance they will not. That'll be suicide for them. Basically, everyone will lose their trust in them and basically get off. So I'll do more research, make sure all these wallets are covered. But most likely, if you go to their blogs or their Discord, they'll probably all tell you, yeah, we're getting ready for the upgrade, just like all the exchanges are. So most likely you don't have to do anything. If BTC does become a reserve standard, what price would it be at that point? Millions. Millions. So, Bitcoin would have to, you would figure the market cap of Bitcoin would be tens of trillions, if not hundreds of trillions, before it becomes a reserve currency. I mean, we're talking about every single country basically utilizing Bitcoin for everything, as a store of value, for transactions, for everything. And if that happens, and there's only 21 million, and minus all the lost ones out there, and you're spreading that across 8 billion people, you're talking about millions per Bitcoin each. So hopefully that happens someday. All right. All right, I'll let you guys go. Overall, guys, I know it looks bad, but stay strong. A lot of macro stuff going on, especially with Europe. Let's see what happens. Russia is really getting serious about cutting off Europe from its gas and oil. So, you know, we got to pay attention to that. And of course, there's still some stuff, lingering stuff with ITrustCapital and others, right? Plus liquidations. There's just a lot of stuff going on. But you know what? Fundamentals of Bitcoin has never been stronger. Same thing with several others. And the fact that holders are not panicking and continue DCA, that's what we want to see. And hopefully you guys are not panicking as well. So join me tomorrow, 8:15 a.m. Central Standard Time, and let's see what happens tomorrow. All right? Take care, guys. Have a good night. Bye-bye.